We've just got a quorum of 3. There's no lead member yet, but perhaps, Kenneth, you could start with your questions. Mr. Cole. Witness, Mr. Cole. Can we invite Mr. Cole into the meeting room, because now we are focusing our questions on his event.
Audit. Kenneth.
Kenneth? Yes, let me get started, Mr. Chairman. Can I refer members to R62/3 Gen 1? That is the letter to Mary, the Mary Soul. Annex C, page 60. That is the handwritten page number 60. That is the standard contract, mega event fund agreement. In bracket it says that events are supported under Tier 2. So can I ask the administration this? Is this the agreement that you've been using all along since 2009? Although you say this agreement is for Tier 2, but it's just the same agreement you've been using all along. Well, I could say that, yes, it's the same agreement, but over the years there may be changes to the wordings. So the wordings have been changed, but then in general, the conditions are more or less the same, right? Yes. Except that for 2012, we have made changes to the Tier 2 events, relaxing the criteria. So therefore, there may be corresponding changes to this agreement. Thank you. Next, Mr. Kenneth. Page 89 and also page 82, page 81 and 82, pages 81 and 2. That is handwritten pages number 81 and 2. Well, I don't believe there's been any changes. Paragraph 9, conflict of interest. Unfortunately, there's only the English version of the agreement, so please bear with me. I'd like to say something about conflict of interest. It's in black and white here, 9.1. The grantee
of this agreement, and for 6 months thereafter. 6 months thereafter, 即係話呢份合約完咗。
In other words, 6 months after the agreement is completed, the grantee still has certain duties, obligations. One of them, 9.1b.
Of all or any facts which may reasonably be considered to give rise to a situation where the financial, professional, commercial, personal or other interests of the grantee or any of the project coordinator, etc. 即係包括其他佢所僱用嘅 agent 啊 contractor
including the agency hiring, so
or may conflict or complete with the grantee's duties to the government under this agreement. 簡單嚟講呢，即係話呢一個
Put briefly, the grantee under any time, including within 6 months after the completion of the agreement, the grantee has the obligation to inform the administration that if there may be conflict of interest or even potential conflict of interest, including on financial matters, professional matters, commercial matters, or personal matters, or any other conflict of interest. Mr. Wong told me that it told us in the opening statement, paragraph 3, that is that is where there are conflict of interest, we will deal with them and so on. I don't think that's true, because it seems that you've all been rather perfunctory in doing this task. Now, in the agreement, the template agreement, there is in black and white that the grantee has the obligations to declare conflict of interest. How come then you don't take care of that? Is it that people just sign the template agreement and nobody actually reads it? Is that the case? Now, I don't know where Mr. Cole is, but for Event G, I would like to ask him, or rather, Performance A under Event G, I want to ask about the run timetable. Is Mr. Cole coming in, or we're still looking for him?
In any event, you can put it to Mr. Wong. Yes, I'll put it to Mr. Wong. Have you actually enforced this agreement with the organizer, or is it that it's just a piece of waste paper? Can I also refer you to 9.4? Actually, the grantee, if you look at the last sentence,
by the government, it shall take all such steps as are lawful and necessary to enforce such undertakings or to cooperate with the government in their enforcement. Now, 講返呢一段第9段嘅條款從
So coming back to clause 9 and taking Mr. Cole's example as a case in point, yes, even though you know that those musicals have been staged in Hong Kong, but then you are not aware of their plans of staging the shows in Macau or Canada. But then there is no chance that you would not have been aware that after signing the agreement in other places they would be staging these shows. So am I right in putting that statement to you? Chairman, the fact is that up until the audit report, we were not aware of that. We had no idea that those performances were staged in other places. So was that a negligence of duty on your part? Well, Chairman, I can only state the fact. The fact is, after granting the funding, we did not have the relevant information to be made aware of the fact that they staged the performances elsewhere. So, under this paragraph on declaration of conflict of interest, did you require them at the time when they apply for funding from you? Did you impose this requirement on them that they will have to do it? So afterwards, did you impose a time frame before which they will have to declare that for you? Because in this paragraph it says that within 6 months they will have to do it. So were they required to declare to you that there might be a direct conflict of interest? Yes, looking back, Mr. Chairman, of course, there is a possibility that there might be a conflict. But then this is a standard agreement in our terms. And as we just talk about Mr. Cole's event, well, that's one of the earlier items that was approved. And then subsequently, in the other events, we have included more specific clauses requiring the applicant, that is before and after the mega event period, they would not be allowed to stage the events in nearby cities. But then when event G was staged, we didn't notice that that could be a possibility. So where's the problem? Because Paul just put a question to him. So, well, they apply for some funding from you for advertising and publicity. You said that there might be a possibility of a conflict of interest. So can you elaborate a bit more on that? All right, if they are staging the same shows elsewhere, then we will have to look at the information provided by him, and also in scrutinizing the application as to the amount of money that we allow him to use, then there might be areas where we may have to make revision on. Mr. Chairman, I do not accept the explanation by Mr. Wong. All right, it's a standard contract. Does it mean that you can just sign it blindly with your eyes closed? So it's not about whether or not you're aware of that. Well, the two parties to the contract have the responsibility to enforce the contract, or else if you just sign this contract, what's the purpose of signing it? Is it just a piece of waste paper? Well, by conflict of interest, well, I can just cite a very simple example. If you look at Appendix B, that's about the timetable of Performance B. That's in the audit report. on the 5th of February 2010, you signed the funding agreement. That's the agreement in Annex C, and nobody denied that there is this clause 9 in the contract that's about conflicts of interest. Yes, it does not specifically say that there is a blackout period, but then Paul said that the administration was shortchanged. In fact, that's not true. In fact, it's the administration's failure to take action. All right, under 9.1b, it shows that if Mr. Cole had signed the contract, then if he was aware of anything that might have caused a conflict of interest to arise, including any commercial interest, then in 2010, on the 5th of February, you signed a contract, and then on the 6th of February, you immediately staged a performance in Macau. So that musical was staged in Macau the day after. And then if that musical that was staged in Macau, had that not been done, then would the visitors, because of this musical being staged in Hong Kong, have come to Hong Kong instead of watching it in Macau? All right, for the musical stage in Macau, that's an alternative arrangement made by Mr. Cole. And under clause 9.1b of the contract, he would have to inform the government right away. So it's not about the point in time when he submitted the application, because as soon as this contract comes into effect, until after the expiry of this contract, 6 months after, he will still have this contractual responsibility. It's a legal responsibility for him to immediately notify the government in writing. Did he do so? No. And then under 9.4, the administration, in accordance with the terms of the contract, would have been able to take lawful action to enforce clause 9 of this contract, including, all right, we will have to look at the revenue or receipt from the show in Macau, and then that could be deducted from him. But then you failed to do so. Are you aware of that? You should have been all ears to that. You should have opened your eyes to find out what's happened, because the money that has been granted is taxpayers' money. It's not just for you to sit back and do nothing and then have this contract put into the drawers, and then in 2014 you take it out again and allow us to put questions to use on that basis. So is that the case, Mr. Wong? Chairman, according to the contract, well, for the grantee, of course, has this responsibility to notify the government, and if we, in the course of monitoring the implementation of contract, if we had been aware of that, obviously we would have taken follow-up action. But then, in reality, we were not aware of that when this happened. That's why we did not take action in accordance with the terms of the contract. That's a fact. All right, afterwards, during those few days, of course, you might not have been aware, but then you should have received information about this, and you should have tracked that down or conducted an investigation. You should have informed the organizer of event G that you are aware that they've been doing this, and therefore I'm deducting this from you. That's because of this clause in the contract, instead of having Mr. Cole say that you have deducted hundreds of thousands of dollars from me and I don't know the reason. So that would have been a more effective way of going about it. And also, it's May 2014, and you're telling us that we will have to step up our conflict of interest declaration mechanism. In fact, the mechanism has been there all along. It's just that you have not looked into it, or for whatever reason, well, this is a standard contract. You've treated it as a standard contract. That's why you just go through the motion without taking action or without really reading it very carefully. Chairman, as I said, the requirement has always been there, but then as we have found out that in the course of enforcement and execution of it, the applicant might have forgotten about this, or for whatever reason. That's why we are saying that in the application form, we would specifically remind them once again that is, the applicant does have this responsibility. And of course, if the administration had been aware of that, we would have taken follow-up action. But then, according to the information available to us, we were not aware of that. So in reality, we did not bring that up with the applicant about what we are now aware of, that other performances might have an impact on the event back then. So this is just common sense. As Ko Chi-sum just said, he read the contract and there was no blackout requirement, and he assumed that there was none, and he was not aware of this conflict of interest clause. And now Mr. Ko is nowhere to be found. Well, he doesn't want to come back, but then we will try to get him back. All right, I'd like to ask questions about event G. All right, other than item or performance A, which was repeated elsewhere. So I'd like to ask the audit director, all right, Mr. Ko is not here. So other than performance A, which was repeated elsewhere, so how about performances B, C, and D? These are 3 musicals. Have they been staged elsewhere before, during, and after the mega event? Were they staged either in Hong Kong or elsewhere? Well, Audit Director, can you help? Thank you, Chairman. In the process of our auditing, we did look at other performances, where some of them were also restaged. But then, it's not as serious as performance A. In this, all right, Mr. Ko has already left the complex. Maybe we'll have to consider summoning him back again. I think he'd also have to explain to us whether or not he has abused the mega event fund, because I'm trying to reinterpret what Mr. Paul Chair asked just now. Even if only 3 performances were staged in Canada, obviously he had read the contract. So that's my interpretation. Well, in the absence of Mr. Ko, my criticism might not have been entirely fair to him, but then given what Mr. Ko just said, all right, he said that in general or common contract there would have been this 3 months blackout period before and after the contract period. Well, probably, according to him, clause 9 is quite an ambiguous clause. All right, he'll be back in 15 minutes, so we can put this to him later. All right, I'll allow another member to ask questions so that I can ask that again later. Okay? Alan Leung? Well, inevitably, I would be asking questions involving Mr. Ko. So, Chairman, probably we'll have to finish with event G. So we'll be as flexible as possible. All right. So I'll try to ask questions which do not require his presence. I've led witnesses to look at the FC paper dated 27th of April 2012, FCR 2012-13-19. And I think the biggest problem is when the administration lobbied this council, they said that they had now come up with this Tier 1 event so that more international mega events can be introduced into Hong Kong. But then, according to the audit report, it says that during the past 2 years, not a single item under Tier 1 was staged in Hong Kong. And just now, according to the Deputy Commissioner, well, not a single application has come up. Well, even for Tier 2 events, well, during the past 2 years, since 2012, April the 27th, actually the number has been declining. So my question for the Permanent Secretary is, given the objective figures, is it that you just bluffed so that you won't be held accountable for that? Because 2 years has elapsed and have you misled this council back then? So let's remember, Mr. Chairman, the recommendation by the ICAC report was not disclosed in the same paper. So my advice for the Permanent Secretary is to give us the report by the ICAC as soon as possible. And if they have any correspondence with the ICAC, then I'd like to know the full picture, or else my only conclusion, as I have already set out very clearly. So can the Permanent Secretary tell us whether or not you just bluffed, thinking that you'll be able to get off the hook afterwards? Yes, I've already talked to the Permanent Secretary during the break. That is, with regard to the correspondence between them and the ICAC, they would be giving a copy to us before Friday this week, so that we'll be able to comment on that report on Saturday. All right, that would also set the records. Yes, I can. I also saw you chatting with him just now. Okay, so can you also respond to the other questions raised by Mr. Leung? Yes, in the paper that we submitted to this council, we said that we already explained that for Tier 2 events, indeed, as far as non-profit making organizations are concerned, well, some have been more successful, others not. That's why we already explained to this council that we'd like to modify the program so that we would be able to introduce some Tier 1 programs organized by profit-making organizations. And after the approval was given by the FC, we did some work. For example, we have engaged an independent consultant to identify programs or events that would be suitable for Hong Kong, and they are the so-called Tier 1 events. And after the report was submitted to the administration, we are still in the process of liaising with some of the proponents of these events to see if these events can be brought into Hong Kong. So we are still pressing ahead with this work. So it's not that after we have applied for funding from this council, we are just sitting back and doing nothing. So can I put this to you, Mr. Wong? You are also the chairman of the assessment committee. Are you surprised that during the past 2 years, there was no application for Tier 1 event during the past 2 years? So have you got any paper? Have you raised questions with them as to why and how come there's no Tier 1 event being applied for? So is there anything wrong with the procedures or whatever? Chairman, the assessment committee is not sitting back and doing nothing. In fact, we have also communicated with the administration on Tier 1 applications. But I'm sure you would all understand that for international mega events, they are not they are not something that you can just ask them to come and then they'll come, because all the cities are competing for these mega events to be staged in their cities. But then for international events under Tier 1, I've also received some inquiries and I've forwarded these to the administration. According to my understanding, the administration has also received some inquiries, or through their consultant, they have also got hold of some information about some of these mega events. And in the process, of course, the administration is the one to deal with that. And where there are applications, they have to submit their applications on their own volition. And of course, some of these mega events are already being staged elsewhere. They might already have entered into a contract with the other cities. So even if they are able to meet our requirements or criteria, or even if we agree to the replication criteria. Well, Jeffrey, my question is very simple. I'm not asking you whether you have directly or indirectly. It's not about you personally. It's about your committee. Have you asked the administration why during the past 2 years, since 2012, and now it's 2014, how come no action has been taken about these Tier 1 applications? Yes, indeed, we have raised that question with the administration, and the administration has also responded to our questions. All right. Chairman, I'm grateful to Mr. Cole for rushing back. Sorry, I did not ask you to leave. I thought that you said that, Mr. Cole, you don't have to come back again. That's why I crossed the harbor. Well, you will have to turn back. So I was asking you to have a break of 15 minutes, and then we can focus on questions for you, so that you don't have to come back again. I didn't mean that you can leave right away. Mr. Kenneth Leung, I'll not be long. All right, Mr. Cole, sorry. Coming back to event G, can I refer you to the audit report, Appendix B, on page 75? It's about the repeat or reruns of Performance A. Mr. Cole, do you have that report? So timetable for the repeated shows of Performance A, Appendix B, on page 75. Mr. Cole, it doesn't matter. We can always give you a spare copy. All right, Mr. Cole, just now, before the break, when you gave evidence, you said that for general performance contract, as far as you're aware, they would always have this clause of a blackout period. That is 3 months before the signing of the contract, and 3 months after the performances, you would be required not to stage the same performance again. So that's what you said just now. Is that correct? Can you confirm that?
In relation to the blackout time, it's not necessarily 3 months. Some can be 1 year. Some can be until the time when the performance is staged, and there may be some other conditions in relation to the selling of tickets, but it will be clearly stipulated. That means you have read this mega event fund agreement. You have read it. In Appendix B, you see that on the 5th of February 2010, you signed the MEF funding agreement. And in the document I have is the English version of the funding agreement. And you have read out similar provisions. If you have the English version of the funding agreement, please refer. Kenneth, please wait and see if Mr. Goh has the document. No, I don't have it, but I've read it. You have read it, so you understand the content of the agreement. Well, at least I hope so. And under Clause 9, conflict of interest. Under this term, it stipulates that for 6 months during the continuation of this agreement and 6 months thereafter, where there are conflict of interest, you will have to immediately report to the government in relation to financial matters, professional matters, commercial matters, or personal conflict of interest, whether it's actual or potential. You have to immediately notify the relevant department. And there is one condition that says the grantee, that is you,
by the government, it shall take all such steps as are lawful and necessary to enforce such undertakings or to cooperate with the government in their enforcement. 咁呢個係喺個條款入邊嘅。
This is under Clause 9. It's one of the conditions. There is no blackout period. However, on the second day of the signing of the agreement, that is on the 6th of February 2012, the same performance was staged in Macau, just a 6-minute ferry journey from Hong Kong. It would affect the attendance of the show staged in Hong Kong. Mr. Koh, do you need time to read that? No need. Then please give us an answer. Well, it's not just about a 60-minute ferry from Sunbeam Theatre to Tuen Mun. It's even closer. However, both shows have received a full house. So because we're catering for 2 different groups of customers. Yes, we stage shows shortly after in the overseas countries because that's a usual practice in our sector because it will save on cost, rehearsal cost. And under the venue partnership scheme of the LCSD, it supports staging of plays and drama in Hong Kong. There are also various cultural exchange programs. They support local cultural programs. And after the performance in Hong Kong, there will be overseas performances. And if you use the point of conflict of interest, well, it's unrelated. I haven't finished. And I would like to also say that the closer the show times are, there is no conflict because, well, for those who will be in Canada, they won't come to Hong Kong to see the show, and vice versa. So the closer the time the shows are, the less conflict there will be. Well, you said the performances at the Sunbeam Theatre and Toon Moon, and you also talk about blackout period and commercial contracts. So is it the case that you are right, or other entertainment organizations are right? If you say that there is no problem at all and it's even better do it this way, how come? And I would like to say that when it comes to the blackout period, what about the geographical coverage? Well, of course, you won't be banned to stage it in Germany. The geographical coverage will be in Hong Kong or Asia, right, Mr. Cole? Mr. Cole, I would like you to refer to the report, Appendix B. The dates are important. We have to be fair to you as well. And let me finish first. You don't have to rush. On the 8th of October 2009, the MEF sent you a letter telling you that your application has been approved. And between October to the 5th of February, well, that was a few months, and then in February you signed the agreement. So I want to know what actually happened. Between October and the 6th of February, you were still doing your work. Tickets were for sale before the 5th of February, and that was a time before a decision of the fund had yet to be made. So I would like to know, is it the case that the tickets for the show on the 6th of February, they were available for sale before the 5th of February, and that was a time before a decision has been given to you by the fund? And you would not have stopped everything you were doing only to wait for an answer from the fund. We're trying to find out what happened here. We find the dates here, but we would also like to know what happens before and after those dates. So can you tell us? Well, you signed the agreement on the 5th, and by the 6th of February you have already sold the tickets. Sorry, I'd like to say that you may not understand about overseas performances. Whether the show is staged in Canada or Macau, we don't take the ticket revenue. We did not sell tickets. We only produce the show. And as to how ticket revenue is taken, whether it's a full house or not, we don't know at all. We don't know how publicity was done by the organization. And as to the show on the 6th of February, and as to when that contract was signed, I have to find out the information. We did not receive the ticket revenue in relation to the show in Macau. Well, from the dates, I want to know whether these tickets were for sale and sold before the 6th of February. We have to be fair. We can't just say that, well, since the agreement was signed on the 5th, you should not have staged the show on the 6th. Well, let me just tell you from my recognition that it's a Sands in Macau. Well, from experience, it would have taken at least 6 months. It seems that it would be unfair to you if we did not ask you. That's why I gave you a chance to answer and explain how come the show on the 6th of February was staged right on a day after the agreement was signed on the 5th of February. Well, we now know that this is not your doing. Well, I want to say that for the shows in Canada or Macau, we were invited by the host. We did not organize the show and receive ticket revenue ourselves. There is no need for us to do any publicity in the location. We do not receive the ticket revenues. The ticket revenue. We're not coaching you. It's just that we're trying to get some answers from you to help us understand. We were talking about publicity expenses, and you now explained that you're not responsible for publicity in those overseas locations. I wasn't coaching you. I wasn't coaching him. I just want to get a better understanding. I wasn't coaching him. I just want to find out what actually happened. There is no need for me to coach him. Just tell me the truth. Don't worry. This is not a court. We're not putting you on trial. We just want to find out what's happening. We see it from a value for money perspective about the use of public money. You should have explained to Mr. Leung step by step. In relation to the publicity expenditure funded by the fund, it was used on the musical festival. We wanted to attract visitors to Hong Kong. We have advertisements and various publicity campaigns on different media form. We were also invited to stage the shows in overseas countries, and they use their own publicity expenses. They take the ticket revenue, box office. We did not receive that. We only produced the show. We have no idea about the publicity. It's just that when we arrive, we will help with the publicity. I understand. I heard Mr. Cole. What I want to ask is the spirit of the contract. Under 9.1b, you should immediately notify the government of potential conflict of interest on the agents' contracts.
即係話，如果你呢一做嘅事情可能對
That is, if you do anything that may create competition or potential competition, you will have to notify the government. I wasn't talking about using publicity, funding for publicity to stage your shows elsewhere. I would like to know that prior to signing of the contract. Mr. Cole, you have read the contract, but where you explain the terms of the contract. There are many previous occasions when we cooperated with the government. Say, for example, the Tourism Commission helped us with publicity of some of our shows. Say, for example, the venue partnership scheme or various cultural exchange schemes of the LCSD and the HAB. After local shows, we stage overseas performances as well. There has never been an occasion when we were asked from the perspective of conflict of interest why we stage overseas shows after the local ones. So we've never seen it as having conflict of interest when we stage a local show and then immediately afterwards an overseas show. There is the closer the show times are, the less conflict of interest, because we're targeting two different groups of audience. But it's not about practice in the trade. It's just that you don't respect the terms in the contract. We look at it from the value for money perspective. There are rules. Well, you have to notify the government. It doesn't mean that they will stop you to do something. I don't think that you'll be shown the contract the afternoon after you've signed it. You should have been shown it days before it. And you did not ask any questions. Well, you say that it's a practice that you could stage performances in Macau, but I was talking about the respect of the spirit of the contract. You did not do that at all. I wasn't talking about using the fund for publicity where you're not supposed to. I've asked questions. I just want to get some clarification, and I did. Kenneth. This is a report from the Director for Audit. In effect, it also mentioned about using the funds for publicity elsewhere. You touched on this point, and we have to be fair to the witness. You ask about principle, but it involves the actual details of operation. Mr. Cole, can you give us some information about how the funds for publicity has been used with receipts and supporting documents, so that we can follow this point of the Director for Audit? Next, Mr. Gary Chan. Sorry, no, it's Mr. Alan Leung. You were interrupted. But we only have 5 minutes. So what's your plan? You use your 5 minutes, and next time we'll start with you. You can ask questions, and we stop at 1 o'clock. And if witnesses don't mind, we can continue till 1:15. But I have to leave at 1. How long do you need, Mr. Gary Chan? About 15 minutes. I have some questions for Mr. Cole about the figures. If you've already made a decision not to ask them to come next time, well, that depends. Depends on whether we're finished with questions for Mr. Cole. Well, he left us for 15 minutes. He was absent. If necessary, we will have to ask Mr. Cole to come back on the 17th. But when it comes to receipts, I would like to say something. Go on. After the publication of the Director for Audit's report, well, we have supplied all the original. We have supplied the original receipts that we had 4 years ago, and I think the letter was sent to us after they have audited the matter, and it says that.
其實喺當時我哋收到呢一個對我哋嚟講係噩耗啦，但係
Of course, well, it's a fact. So the matter has been concluded. The MEF told us that the matter was concluded. I would like to continue. We're an art troupe with no funding. When they have drawn a conclusion to reduce an amount of money, well, the matter has been concluded. We've practically disbanded all the freelancers, and we put the resources of the troupe to where it's needed. 4 years ago, the file has been closed by the MEF. The matter was concluded, and that's why we're puzzled as to why we're asking questions, because we have already supplied all the information to the MEF. And that should be a monitoring mechanism, and we have done everything overboard. And we were very well received locally and in overseas countries. We have supplied all the available information to the administration. There is you wouldn't be able to get anything out of me. We're not trying to get anything out of you. It's just that if we can't get information from you, we'll have to ask the administration. We have to do it step by step. If we can't get an answer from you, then we'll ask the administration. We're talking about the use of public money. You give your answer, we will decide whether to accept your answer. But you have to tell us your answer, your situation. It's not personal. We have to fulfill our duty when it comes to the use of public money. We monitor the proper use of public money on behalf of the public of Hong Kong. And I thank you for giving us a detailed explanation about the operation in your trade. Audit Commission, have you seen all the receipts and supporting documents for Event G? In relation to the receipts supplied by the Tourism Commission, yes, we have seen them. We have asked some follow-up questions and the Tourism Commission may not be able to give us all the information. We explained in the report. Well, since Mr. Ko is very busy, our understanding was that we will not be able to get explanation immediately. I think the administration should explain to the Audit Commission and show us the explanation before we decide how to write the report. We want to find out what happened, and then we will be forward looking, because we don't want a reoccurrence. I think the most important thing is about the way forward. Yes, well, a lot of people might have left from your group. The file may be closed, but you will still have the file. Give us the information to help us prepare the report, because without information we will have to tap into our wisdom to prepare it.
Can I ask too, formally, I don't know who could provide this, Event C 1, 2, 3, 4 and Event G, can we have the application forms for these events, because I believe they are important. Now, this morning as we take evidence, we heard that for Event G and Event C, those who attended the hearing today, they seem to have different understanding about the job creation factor. We also heard from the Commissioner of Tourism that there are 5 elements on which scores will be given by the assessment committee. So how were the application forms filled in for these events? I think that will help us. And we understand that for the Dragon and Lion Dance Extravaganza, we learned from media report that the final audited account report was submitted. I've not seen it. Have you? No, we haven't seen it yet. So before the next hearing, again, if we have that report, it will help us. It will help to shorten the hearing. Yes, these are reasonable requests. So, Permanent Secretary, could you please give us the entire file for G and C1, 2, 3, and 4, from the time when they submitted the application until the applications were approved. You want us to give you the file or the application forms, everything, whatever you have, give it all to us. Now, I've only asked for the application form, but the chairman wants the whole file. Because apart from the application forms, how do you rate them? How do you give them scores? Because for each item, there should be 60% or more, right, for the score. And the Audit Commission only saw the total score from you. And in answering Mr. Leung's question, we have to see how you look at how you score, items like job creation and so on. So that's why we've asked for the full file. It will help us to understand the issue and get to the truth. Mr. Chairman, of course, I'm more than happy to provide the information requested by members. But when the audit came to check these files for the score sheets, with the consent of the members of the assessment committee, we did not actually keep the score sheets for each application. We only kept the total score for each application. That we could provide. So in that case, give us notes of meeting. We could furnish that. Okay, notes of meeting then. Thank you. Kenneth? C1 to C4. Apart from the application forms, the notes of meeting and the total score. Now, you said the score sheet of every member is not kept. So for C1, C2, C3, the financial statements, audited financial statements for the past 3 years, including the financial reports. Please, I would like to take a look at them as well. From media report, it seems that our focus is now on event C or G, referred to by Director Ko. But actually, for events E1 and E2, I think we should also ask for the application forms and the relevant documents. Okay, E1 and E2 as well. Mr. Gary Chen, can we ask the administration, you know, your assessment criteria, 4 or 5 principles, could you spell them out in writing, please? And another point, for the assessment criteria I have, 1.5 that is, say for the 2011 Tier 2 application, Annex B4, but we don't have the same criteria for 2009, so could you also provide the document for 2009? Well, 2012, 2009, is it exactly the same, no change? Is it identical? Ms. Law has confirmed there's been no change, but still give us a copy. Okay, the next hearing, 17th of May. Mr. Ko, sorry, I had wished that we could finish with today. So you won't be in Hong Kong? You're out of town? Mr. Ko, when are you in town? Well, I'll check my diary. I will liaise with the Secretariat because we have to write a report. So please give us a date as soon as possible. On the 17th of May, perhaps we could go to other issues first. Today, Mr. Ko, we have accommodated you, which is on part 4 actually, but since we couldn't finish, please give us another date. Mr. Chen, sorry. You spent the whole morning here listening in, but that's important because we will come back to events C1 to C4 another day. So 17th of May, 8:30 is closed meeting, and 9 o'clock the public hearing. In the afternoon, we have rescheduled the hearing because now there's a stamp duty. So it will start again at 5 p.m. Thank you. From 5 until when? No, the afternoon one is not your meeting. It's our own closed meeting. Well, you're a member. If you wish, you could join us anytime. The 17th of May, you'll have to come back. Thank you. Thank you.